Oh, hello. This is the Publishing Without Supervision podcast. I am your host, Erica Conroy, and joining me, as always, my beautiful co host, Xavier Granville. Hello, Xavier.
Hello, internets, and hello to you, Erica.
Hello. Now, I guess we should probably get the main attraction from which this, shouldn't we? Or, I'm afraid if we do, I won't be able to finish the podcast.
Right?
For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, we had introduced the Marmite challenge, the stick that was meant to be a consequence for if I did not finish the first draft of the cozy mystery story that I've been planning and sort of writing for the last few months. But obviously, if I'm sitting here in dread, I have failed the challenge and need to eat a Marmite sandwich, which was the consequence.
hmm
I would like to say, in my defense, even though this does not excuse it, I have given up on the cozy mystery entirely. Especially after the episode we did with the guest Michael Chatfield, who is the lit RPG author. I've decided and have started writing, and I think I've even written more than I had of the cozy mystery so far. My own lit RPG story. Yay! Um,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting because I'm not really a gamer, which is what you kind of need to be or have knowledge of. But as all good writers do, they do their research and have someone who can advise them. And my husband, luckily, is a gamer, so yeah. And but I will be going more D&D ish, which is something I know a bit more of than I do of gaming. So yeah, so far so good. And so I'm doing Camp Nano for that at the moment. I think so far I am doing okay. But yes, anyway, enough procrastinating the challenge. We didn't have any fresh sandwich bread, so we broke out the frozen toast bread and decided that toast with the same amount of Marmite on it as it would be with a sandwich, just less bread, mm, would be just as good. And to make it fair, my husband toasted it and put the Marmite on himself. So if you're watching, isn't it disgusting?
It looks like someone shat on your bread.
Because someone shit tar on my bread. It looks like tar. Oh, and my husband's also he doesn't like Marmite either, but he's put a little basket with a bag in it in case I, cannot contain the thing. Anyway, so here we go. You might want to talk during this while I go and eat it. X, but I'm just gonna fold it in half because that'll make it go
Okay.
quicker. By the way,
That's
it
okay. Great
stinks
form.
something awful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good technique.
and
I like this. Okay. So,
yeah,
so for those who are just listening, she's just kind of like looking at it and grimacing. Oh, she's taking the bite. She's going for it. Okay. It's happening. It's happening. The chewing, the face, the frowning, the tongue.
oh,
Yeah. There's definitely some. She does not like it, folks. She does not enjoy this at all. Why would she? It's Marmite.
my husband is standing off camera laughing at
As all good husbands should. Hey, Blair. Thumbs up approvingly from the background.
Oh, this is worse than what I remember. I'm gonna have some drink.
And for those also just only listening, she is drinking what was it? A
Chocolate
hot
milk.
chocolate milk and marshmallows to wash down this.
Oh no, the marshmallows is separate in case I need a bit more afterwards.
Oh, I get you. Just I
The
get you.
chocolate milk helps. It gets rid of the flavor. I haven't even finished swallowing the first bite.
And see, like that's what I was wondering. Well, is there any really good chase to that? Right? Like it's in that sense. When you do the tequila shot and you have the lime and the salt and stuff like that, people are like, yeah, it's not as bad. It's like it's still not good.
Tequila would still be a better shot after the Marmite. Tequila would be the Marmite.
Well, that's what I'd almost be reaching for something to sterilize my mouth after eating something like that. Ugh. And see, like this was why, as you're taking it pretty good, you know. Like I haven't heard any gagging. There's no coughing or There's a lot. Yeah, a lot of frowning for sure. But yeah, when I had talked about doing like if I had to do a pickle, I would immediately gag. So like it wouldn't make for as entertaining to watch.
I think we should have gone with Vegemite. Oh. I think that's the one I can stomach a bit better. My sister did tell me off when I told her about it. She said, "You should have used Vegemite. Vegemite's better than Mama." Fucking all of them are disgusting.
Yeah, basically, if there's mite in the, it's usually not food. You know, like dynamite.
It might be food.
Yeah, I'm struggling thinking of many foods that have the word mite in it. So how far are you along this Marmite sandwich now? You're looking like you're about halfway. Okay. You're like really getting into the fruit of it, the butt fruit, you know, like the getting into the heart of that shit steak. Well, folks, this is real, and it is not pleasant. This is what happens when you don't do what you want to do in a month, and you decide to punish yourself. It's not pretty, but you know what?
Now we're gagging.
Yep, there it is. That's what I was waiting for. Wash it down with some chocolate milk. See, like that flavor combination. Just I don't think like I said, I don't think there's any good possible drink for post Marmite.
Oh,
Could be reaching for in that case.
God damn it! You know, I don't know how people can eat this shit. It literally does. Oh, I cannot even compare it to another flavor. So, while I'm finishing this off, what have you done this month?
Well, I've been still likewise been doing research on my dark fantasy, urban fantasy. It's kind of getting more towards that dark fantasy genre rather than urban fantasy, or at least urban fantasy that you atypically would see on the charts for urban fantasy. It's not, so it's definitely darker. You look like you're enjoying this conversation there, Erica. And the other day I did about 20 pages worth of work on a RPG supplement, which I didn't know whether I was going to be writing that one or a smaller one, because initially I had begun work a couple months back on a campaign setting book, so just like a large, probably aiming to be 200-300 pages of information on the setting of this world that I've built, and options for players and stuff like that. But after reading various essays on the matter, I was quickly convinced, like with my gaming itself, world building, when you're running it for a game for people, someone described it as like an iceberg. You know, you should be always having only a certain amount peeking above the surface, and then have a greater body underneath. And if you're of world builder, then you know exactly what's always underneath. Oh, there's the gag. Fantastic.
dinosaurs coming back up.
Yep.
Wow,
There.
shit.
uh, what I was getting at was that some people will world build to the point where they've kind of built this whole world and they know everything and all the cogs and gears of how it all turns and stuff like that. But when you're running a game week per week, or even less often than that, you quickly start to realize that all the big planning that you make is not always relevant. And like in writing fiction, if you introduce a gun in the first act, it has to go off near the end, type of a thing. You have to have reasons why these world building elements are in there. Otherwise, it's just exposition, or it's just that thing that back in the day where the butler and the maid would come out and start talking at the beginning of the play. And as you know, this is how the world works, and as you know, this is why dragons are still around. So what I quickly realized was if I'm going to be putting out any kind of RPG supplement material, like when I'm world building for RPGs, I shouldn't be trying to put out this mass scale thing, because it's way too much thinking. And ultimately, when you're getting these RPG supplements as someone who's running a game, you're not, as the game master, always looking for every possible nook and cranny to be explained to you. There has to be some area of mystery for the reader, and in this case, the game master, to be able to little things that are not established but otherwise hinted at. You don't have to provide everyone with all of the details in the same sense. And in RPGs, you don't have to give story threads for every possible thing under the sun that exists within the world. So rather than my initial idea of kind of doing a book on this whole continent, I'm just going with the capital city. So it's going to be it still will probably be around 100, 120 pages, I imagine. But it's going to be much more localized and focusing on all the various factions that all commingle within this strange capital. So it still is a lot of work, given that it is, I'm not focusing on the small town or the 2-level dungeon or something like that. So I still am going a little bit ambitious with it. Not going the route where I'm going to come out with a 300-page book as my first effort,
Yeah.
So
you are doing the next step up from that town or the 2-level dungeon by giving them a city, which gives them enough wriggle room to explore in.
Yeah, and what I'm really hoping with this one is more than going into the history and geography of the city, and there will be chapters on that. But what I really want is to be exploring all the cultures, so that way, if someone were to read this book and want to run a game in that world, it provides the game master enough to be able to, like I said, kind of find those little areas where they can create their own story threads amongst the main political struggles and blah, blah, blah. But also give these motivating factors for characters based within the realm, because a lot of times you're kind of forced into creating a character. You don't know your backstory. You don't know who the hell you are. And if you're given kind of this book with a bunch of loose examples of what all is going on in this city and who you possibly could be working for, or what churches that you might be aligned to if you're a cleric or a holy man or anything like that, it's enough information so that way it can help give your characters and campaign flavor, but at the same time, it's not. Yeah, and the flavor is definitive of the setting in itself, rather than just kind of using these template ideas and applying it to any game. It's these are the types of character options that make sense specific to the game setting itself. So, excuse me, that the city is on top of a giant tortoise. It's like a huge Leviathan, Terry Pratchett style type of floating island type of thing. The turtle's been asleep for millions of years. You have all of these various, people coming out that, that live on the island that worship the turtle. And of course you have, like turtle, yeah. Oh yeah. And turtle people, like there's Chelonians, there are, they've migrated to be closer to the great turtle and stuff like that. So
I love that it's on the city itself is on a hibernating turtle.
Oh yeah, and there are factions very much wanting to wake the turtle, as much as there are people who want to keep it asleep.
People are stupid. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanted to do an update on those who were wondering what happened. Yes, I did throw up the Marmite. I had one mouthful left to go, but my husband took it away when he took the puke away as well. It's a good thing there was that bucket. And I had to take my hoodie off because I puked on my hoodie too. I don't know why I find this so funny. I guess if I didn't find it funny, it would be really sad and depressed.
Yep. Yeah, that's why.
I'm never having Marmite again. And now my head hurts. But the chocolate milk has helped, so that's good. I don't think I need the marshmallows, but we are definitely going out to have lunch after this.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, you treat yourself.
Nice. I deserve lemon meringue pie.
Yeah. Marmite, chocolate milk, lemon meringue pie. What a day.
It's an awful day. Awful. Isn't it shit out the weather too? I'm actually wearing winterish clothes. Since last night. That's we've it's autumn here, but we're hitting some winter weather out there at the moment. I guess some people might want to know what my new story is about, other than lit RPG, and I'm probably going to go lit RPG light because I'm not a gamer, but it is a kind of an expectation that there be some gaming mechanics and scoring and at least some updating of kind of like +5 damage to whatever the sword hits kind of thing. But so mine's I'm taking advantage of the immersive reality. So once they're in, they feel like they are totally in that game. It's hooked up. I've got the headsets hooked up to part of the brain, so the brain makes them in the game makes them feel like they're really there. So they don't have to wear any haptic gloves or anything like that, which is what they use to send like a little message to the fingertips or something to trick the brain into thinking it's actually touching something, that kind of thing. It's fully immersive, and they don't need that, just the headset. So anyway, the main gist of the story is that a brilliant video game developer has a disease that will eventually lock him into his mind into his body, so his body will become useless and only his mind will be able to function. So that's why he's creating this game, to help to give himself life after his body fails him, but also to use it to help others in a similar situation, or any patients in a hospital. They can use the immersive reality to help with dealing with trauma, or dealing with any kind of therapy rehabilitation that they might need, because it's immersive and the brain makes the body's muscles work, so they can get any of their physical therapy done that way, and it has a benefit of happening quicker than it might in real time. But as happens, all successful people have an enemy, and this enemy uh, gets into the system, hacks it all up, and causes some issues. And basically, if you die in the game, you might die in real life. So the safeties have effectively been taken off, much like in Star Trek's holodecks, where the safeties went off a hell of a lot of times. But it's kind of a D&D like world setting that I'm going for. So once the player goes into the world, they're assigned randomly, well, it's not so random, but they're assigned a race and a class and weapons, and just like in D&D, they get assigned a strength stats, agility stats, and all those kinds in there. But what I'm not taking into account, the game doesn't assign intelligence or charisma. It's completely up to the player. So the player's intelligence comes into play here, along with their wisdom, because it's all part of them being rehabilitated, and it's all kind of the game is geared towards them, getting them from their starting point to a point where they can leave the game and they're a fully functioning, better off mentally kind of person. So each game is supposed to be geared to that single journey, at least for the people who are in the hospital setting. So the game takes this into account when they assign the class and the race. So, for example, there's one character who's basically he's lost faith in himself. He doesn't believe in himself anymore. So he's assigned the class of a cleric or a healer, but he can't use his healing abilities unless he believes in something. Now, since it's the game, in the game, the gods technically really exist, so he just has to have some kind of belief in the gods, or even belief in himself, in order to use his abilities to help people. He can still fight and do minor things as well, but it's his part of the game is to try and regain some belief in himself and want to live, basically. Now, another character, she's gone into the game to follow her husband because they're having a really bad marriage, and she's not a gamer, but she wants to confront him in the game because he's escaping the games. He's no longer living his life. So the game decides she's a fighter, so it assigns her the class of knight. And her, personal objective is to fight to save the marriage, even though the game also gives her an in-character objective as well, to keep the gameplay moving along. So those are just two examples. And at some point, the villain joins in the game and becomes the big boss, essentially. So the villain levels up in the game, while the heroes level up in the game, until there's the big boss fight conclusion. And yeah, death could always happen. But yeah, it's interesting. So I've got characters from very different backgrounds with different in-character and out-of-character objectives or goals that they're working towards, or unknowingly working towards. And at the same time, there's tension between the characters, as well as the idea of, they might possibly die. But yeah, so I'm hoping that works. It might just be a one-off at this point, although I totally understand that in lit RPG, just like in romance and sci-fi genres, a series will probably be the better way to go. But at this stage, I don't write long, so I don't see me being able to not as necessarily draw it out into 3 books, but I yeah, I don't see it happening, because I always figure that the big boss battle is gonna be something at the end of the book, and once that happens, that's the end of the story, essentially. I mean, what else can they do? I'm still new to lit RPG, and I am reading the books, and I'm seeing what other people are doing. But I think it might just be easier to start with a standalone for now and then see what happens. I mean, I'm really scared of some of the readers though, because they are very, I guess, like most readers, quite opinionated and staunch in what they expect.
Well, and and it's an emerging genre, right? So
Mhm,
those
mhm.
that are new to it, it's going to be tougher because there's going to be people who are going to be more already keyed into what it is because the uh, the authorities are going to be the fans because it hasn't gotten to that point where there's going to be outside authorities. It's going to be just the people who are reading it who are going to be telling you whether or not it's lit RPG or not.
Yeah, and that's why I say also it'll probably be lit RPG light. So, well, there will be game mechanics in there that are happening. I personally focus more on characters, so that'll probably be what'll happen. But I'm trying to include, typical game stuff like there should be an objective, so that so that's why I've introduced an in-character objective for each character. And well, I'm not big on, I'm not, well, I do swear, but I've been led to believe that there are some hardcore players out there that, will swear at each other, call each other names, insult each other. I don't think I'll be doing that. I think once they're in the game and they've formed a little team, I get the feeling because actual death might be involved, they might not need to call out to each other. But I do have one character who will be like that, and they're 12 years old, so it's kind of behavior I expect a bit more from the younger crowd than from the outer, but I could be completely wrong. We'll see. Anyway, I've actually found an editor and booked him. He does beta reading, and then a week later, after you've had time to work on anything he's come back with, he'll do an edit. And then you've got a week to work on the editing, and then you give it back, and he'll proofread it to see, the final proofreading in case you've introduced some new errors or whatever, the typical thing. And I've got a very well priced quote for that, so I'm happy with that. It's not crazy expensive. And he said he's actually doing some lit RPGs. About 4 other clients at the moment are lit RPG authors. So I have some confidence there that he should know what he's doing by the time he gets to me, at least. And we'll go from that. So, yes, 1st of May is when I've got to get this first draft done and ready for another person to look at. But we'll see how that goes. I'm kind of scared but excited at the same time. I didn't really
No,
feel
that's
that
great.
way with the Cozy Mystery,
And
so I'm hoping this one will really, really work.
well, yeah, and that's like I remember when you were messaging me just saying like I don't know what to do about this, and then you're texting me your excitement about this, that interview, and and I just remember saying to you like you just ride whatever inspiration wave you are on at the time, because if it's the book that you can write, well, that's the book that you can write, so fucking write it.
Yeah,
uh,
and I expect, people say if you're bored writing something, your readers will probably be bored at the same points that you're bored too. And I'm like, yeah, I was just feeling so
mhm.
bored and really disappointed with where the Cozy Mystery was at. It's an idea I'd been sitting on for a few years, and obviously I should have started it sooner. I think my enthusiasm was just at a point for it where I wasn't there, and this new thing's come along, and I'm still really, really excited, about it. And it's been a few weeks. Is it years? Whenever, not long after we interviewed Michael, that I was like, hey, maybe I should, get on this. This is the first time I've ever been in a position where I've found a hot emerging, genre, and I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of like, oh my god, I gotta get on this quickly. because
Oh yeah.
one else that I know has also found out a lit RPG, and they're kind of rubbing their hands together like this, and I'm all like, "Oh no, this might not last for long. I've got to get there. Got to get there soon."
Well, and like it goes back to that advice of just, you have to ultimately be yourself when you're writing, because like if you're going to be trying to force yourself to get into a certain genre, like or tone, or if you're the guy that writes first person and I'm going to do third person this time, and it's just like the worst thing that you could do to yourself, well then why are you doing it?
Well, I
And
think
also
it's
just
good to try something new, though. I mean, this
yes.
first and third person thing. I've the last year or so, I'd been doing first person. I found it really interesting and really fun. Depends on the main character. Maybe that was the problem too, because this one was the cozy mystery was first person for me, and I was kind of like, my main character is kind of boring, Whereas I've done it first person before. There's been the first person, the main character has actually been quite interesting and finding themselves in interesting situations, like the zany young girl who finds herself between two lovers, or the older woman who's really depressed about life, who one day snaps and goes off and does something about it, Whereas the main character I had for the cozy mystery, she was just, she was at a okay point in her life, really, and she had, I mean, other than she played D&D, I mean, she had really interesting facets to her life, really. Maybe that was bad too. I don't know.
Well, and I think like what I was getting at is like if you're going to be writing any sort of genre, you're going to come out with your version of it in the end. It's like it's going to be, if you're going to be comparing yourself to other people in that, like success aside, if you're going for genre or you're going for tone and you're using other people's styles as the style guide, it's only going to get you so far. And if some people are good at pulling their own teeth and just pumping out stuff that they don't give a darn about. And if it is to that point where where it is all about the money to you and you're able to get the books out, well, good for you. But it is pulling teeth to me. So like I can't write bad things. It's hard for me. It's just I've tried it before and I go cross-eyed, like, or it's the same with self-editing. I can't not even if I turn off spelling correct, if I see that I've spelled something wrong, I'll go back and change it. It doesn't matter if there's a little red line underneath. I don't need that red line to tell me I spelled favorite wrong.
You need an alpha smart then,
Yeah, I have I have considered that.
Me too.
But I going back to where you were at with this whole cozy mystery thing. Like I think that would you be able to write your own good cozy mystery? I have no doubt. But I think the way that you had set it up, where you kind of put all these inherent pressures on to try to get it done and do this because this is the most logical way to do it, and it's the most potentially money making, and it was all the right choices, but it ultimately clashed against what you usually do, or at least how your tone of writing, and so trying to take you and apply it to that, the other way in reverse type of thing. Like you should always be writing your own story within a genre, rather writing a genre story that you just kind of add your own little flair to, because it's going to be very tough to go in with it with that marketing standpoint and then try to tell a good story through that when it's just a vehicle for money.
And we all know what Chris Fox says, when you're finding a market or a genre to write in, start with, the overarching genre that you are actually interested in, and then drill it down to a subgenre or a niche that you see that's emerging, just like Learn RPG. So I'm not necessarily a fantasy fan. I am a sci-fi fan, but I am into D&D, so I've kind of found a way in there, you know. I don't know. We'll see. I just,
No,
I'll see
absolutely.
what I can get away with. I'm probably have some really. I think as long as I can include some of my humor in there, I'll probably be all right.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that'd be great. Like, and that's the nice thing about kind of those protagonists being thrown into a fantasy world thing, especially when it is a specifically purposefully fictional world within a fictional world. You know, like a comic book artist goes into his own world, like in Cool World or something like that. Um, that's where you can really start stretching reality, because when it comes to the laws of physics within the game, you know, sometimes the designer of the game did not iron out every bug. So,
Oh, there are always bugs in games, and I'm going to take
oh,
advantage
absolutely,
of this in
oh,
my book. Yes.
absolutely. And so those are the types of things that you can just, you know, a glitch happening, or uh, all those random silly things. You should check out the movie Existence. It's Existence spelled a little funny, by
Okay.
Dave Cronenberg. Um, and it's all about video games and being tapped into the system, and you don't know what's the game anymore. But specifically, one thing that you brought up that made me think of that was the character motivations in game versus out of game.
Mm-hmm.
So when the two characters go under in the game, suddenly like they start having sex and they don't know why. It's like I guess our characters are in a relationship. So, and it's just this. So like there's all these, you know, weird things that just like, is this part of the game? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm assembling a gun. Oh, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's like with that comic book artist who ends up in his own comic book. I mean, that there's a lot of different kinds of stories like that. I mean, Wizard of Oz is a perfectly good example of
Mm-hmm.
ending up in a potentially dream world,
Yep.
you know, depending on how you view it. And I've actually even had a character say, I'm feeling a little bit like Dorothy here. I just need a Wicked Witch and Toto. But I mean, yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of stories I like as well. So I'm just working on that kind of story in Lit RPG, and that kind of story already exists in Lit RPG as well. So it's not like I'm bringing anything new to it there. It's just my
Mm-hmm.
way of looking at it. Oh, this is a Wizard of Oz story. Or you could even go on to say Labyrinth in a sense because of
Yep.
the journey that's going on with also the same kind of goal and objective as well. Oh, we should probably finish because I need to eat food after puking up
Mm-hmm.
Marmite sandwich.
I was just
Marmite
gonna say
toast.
one last thing.
Okay.
The one thing that you don't have to worry so much, I think, about with the lit RPG is the gaming terms. Because if you're going with RPG, like
Mm.
as far as like being thrown into a fantasy world,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the game mechanics on a lot of the modern fantasy games, they've
They're all
ripped
based
off
on
they're all
D&D.
based off of D&D.
Yeah.
So especially if you go back and play like any kind of games like Baldur's Gate or anything like that, those ones specifically, it is just like playing D&D because you roll up the characters in the same way. You're just pressing buttons rather than using pen and paper. So yeah, you're going to be able to find a lot more easy translations, much more than I think you think.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried about that because I mean, if I do go off weird with the gaming mechanics, I think as long as I can as it fits, you know, in with my story, if it does kind of have it does kind of make sense, it should be okay. And like I said, the editor will be doing a beta read, and my husband, I'll probably be leaning on him quite a bit to make sure I've got you know, that they make sense in a gaming type of way, whereas the editor beta reader will make sure I'm consistent
Mm-hmm.
across the story, so that it should hopefully be good. I mean, I assuming he's good, but the testimonials I've seen from some of the authors, because he will do any kind of book, including erotica, and one person gave him a testimonial in a forum saying that this was probably the editor's first time editing male/male alpha omega shifter romances, but he did a lot more than what I was expecting him to do in terms of viz and depth and editing and proofreading and consistency in the world. So that's the thing. I'm like, well, if the dude can do that, I'm pretty sure he can have a good go at lit RPG. And like I said, he's already got 4 other clients that he'll be taking before me as well. So that should be good. But I mean, 4 more clients. That's more people entering into. I'm so behind.
or it's a sign that you're onto something. So
yes,
get going.
Okay.
And go
I'm
have
never
lunch.
eating Marmite or Vegemite ever again. And that jar we have behind me, I'm gonna destroy it somehow. I wonder if it can be lit on fire.
Throwing it to the curb.
It could be lit on fire. I mean, it tastes like it could be lit on fire. It tastes like it'll burn. Anyway, that's us. You can find us on pwspodcast.com, where we will have lots of information and links to our other interviews and discussions. And last week we also talked with Zoe about some news items, and they were really interesting. So you should check that out too. Also, if you have a sci-fi, fantasy, or horror novel that's at least 200 pages according to Amazon on the product detail page, and you want to do a promo for 99 cents, we are doing one of those. Just go to date promo.com, and that's our sister site, which I run, and it's a multi-author cross promo, so get to it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm saying half the time. It's amazing words come out.
Well, anyway, I think we were just saying goodbye.
Yeah, we're saying goodbye. Bye. What do we say, X, to the world at large?
Have a good night, internets, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, we will. And don't eat Marmite.